Maya's fingers rested on the keys for what felt like an eternity. The silence in the room was so complete that she could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. Behind her, she knew Blackwood was waiting with that cruel smile, expecting her to stumble through a few notes of Ode to Joy or maybe the opening of Fur-Elise. He had no idea what he had just unleashed. 3 years ago, Maya had been a different person. She had spent every day for 12 years in practice rooms, her fingers flying across keys until they bled. She had performed in recitals, competed in competitions, and dreamed of nothing but music. The conservatory had been her second home, and the piano had been her voice when words weren't enough. Then life happened. Her father's accident, the medical bills, the impossible choice between her dreams and her family's survival. She had walked away from everything she loved, telling herself it was temporary, just until things got better, just until the money situation improved. But things never got better. They only got harder. Now, sitting in front of this beautiful grand piano, Maya felt like she was greeting an old friend she hadn't seen in years. The keys felt familiar under her fingertips, like coming home after a long, painful journey. She closed her eyes and let the memories wash over her. Her first recital at age 8, wearing a white dress that her mother had saved for months to buy. The sound of applause when she finished her first competition piece. The pride in her teacher's eyes when she mastered a particularly difficult passage. The scholarship letter that had promised her a future in music. All of it came flooding. Back in an instant, Maya opened her eyes and positioned her hands properly. Not the hesitant placement of someone pretending to know what they were doing, but the confident, precise positioning of someone who had spent thousands of hours perfecting their craft. She began with Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor. The first notes rang out with such clarity and power that the entire room seemed to hold its breath. This wasn't the tentative plinking of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. This was real music, played by someone who understood every nuance, every emotion, every technical challenge the piece demanded. Maya's fingers moved across the keys with impossible grace. The melody soared and dipped, whispered and roared, telling a story that words could never capture. Her left hand provided a rich, complex harmony, while her right hand danced through intricate passages that would challenge even professional pianists. The transformation was instant and complete. The nervous waitress who had been humiliated moments before was gone, replaced by the artist she had always been deep inside. Her posture changed, her breathing changed, even her face changed. This was who Maya really was when all the masks and compromises were stripped away. At Blackwood's table, the cruel laughter died in their throats. The man himself sat frozen, his mouth slightly open, the $20 bill forgotten in his hand. His friends looked equally stunned, their smug expressions replaced by shock and growing embarrassment. Around the room, conversations didn't just stop, they evaporated. Forks hung halfway to mouths, wine glasses paused at lips. Even the servers stopped what they were doing to listen. The music was so beautiful, so unexpected, that it demanded every person's complete attention. Maya was lost in the piece now, her fingers finding notes and passages that she hadn't played in 3 years, but that her muscle memory had never forgotten. The Chopin Ballade was one of the most technically demanding pieces in the classical repertoire, requiring not just skill, but deep emotional understanding. Maya poured everything into it. Her frustration, her fear, her love for her family, her grief for the dreams she had sacrificed. Dr. Hartley, the elegant woman who had tried to intervene earlier, leaned forward in her chair. Her trained ear immediately recognized what she was hearing. This wasn't just someone who had taken a few piano lessons. This was serious conservatory-level playing. The kind of talent that couldn't be faked or learned from YouTube videos. As Maya moved into the more challenging middle section of the piece, her fingers flew across the keys in passages that seemed impossible. Rapid-fire scales blended seamlessly, with thundering chords. Her left hand provided a driving rhythm while her right hand sang out the melody with such emotion that several people felt tears forming in their eyes. The businessman who had barely looked up from his phone was now staring, with his mouth open. The elderly couple celebrating their anniversary had forgotten their dessert entirely. Even the kitchen staff had gathered in the doorway to listen. Blackwood's face had gone through several shades of color. The red of anger had faded to white, of shock, then to a sickly pale green of dawning realization. He was beginning to understand that he had made a terrible mistake, but it was too late to take it back. The entire room was witnessing his cruelty and Maya's incredible talent in equal measure. One of his friends whispered, "Richard, did you know she could—" "Shut up," Blackwood hissed, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Maya continued playing, completely absorbed in the music. For the first time in 3 years, she felt like herself again. Her fingers remembered every lesson, every practice session, every moment of joy she had found in music. The pain of the past few years seemed to flow out through the keys, transforming into something beautiful. As she approached the climax of the piece, the music became even more intense. The melody soared above crashing chords, demanding every ounce of technical skill and emotional depth she possessed. Maya's entire body moved with the music, her shoulders swaying, her head tilting as she listened to the harmonies she was creating. Dr. Hartley pulled out her phone, not to record for social media, but because she recognized extraordinary talent when she heard it. As a conductor and patron of the arts, she had heard hundreds of pianists over the years. What Maya was doing right now was special, not just technically proficient, but deeply musical and emotionally authentic. The piece began to wind toward its conclusion, and Maya allowed herself to slow down slightly, savoring every note. She knew that when the music stopped, she would have to return to being a waitress, return to swallowing her pride and serving people who looked down on her. But for these few minutes, she was a musician again. The final notes of the Chopin piece rang out in the silent room, hanging in the air like a perfect crystal that no one wanted to shatter. Maya's hands remained on the keys for a moment, her head bowed, breathing deeply. Then, without missing a beat, she transitioned into Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2. If the Chopin had been impressive, the Rachmaninoff was absolutely stunning. The opening chords thundered through the room with such power that they seemed to shake the crystal chandeliers. This piece was even more demanding, requiring not just technical skill but incredible physical stamina and emotional range. Maya's hands stretched across the keys in wide, sweeping gestures. The melody was heartbreakingly beautiful, full of longing and passion. Her left hand provided a rich, rolling accompaniment, while her right hand sang out the famous theme that had made this concerto one of the most beloved pieces in classical music. People began pulling out their phones, but not to mock or laugh. They were recording something extraordinary, something they knew they might never witness again. A few guests were openly crying, moved by the sheer beauty of what they were hearing. Blackwood looked like he wanted to disappear under the table. His cruel joke had backfired spectacularly, and now everyone in the room could see exactly what kind of person he really was. The $20 bill lay crumpled on the table, a pathetic reminder of his attempt to humiliate someone who was clearly his superior in every way that mattered. As Maya played, she felt 3 years of suppressed emotions pouring out through her fingers. Every sacrifice she had made, every dream she had abandoned, every moment of dignity she had swallowed, it all transformed into music that filled the room with indescribable beauty. She was no longer playing for Blackwood's entertainment. She was playing for herself, for her family, for everyone who had ever been underestimated or overlooked. She was proving that worth isn't measured by bank accounts or job titles, but by the content of one's character and the depth of one's talents. The Rachmaninoff built to its soaring climax, and Maya's face glowed with pure joy. This was who she was meant to be.
The stars had been watching Earth for 300 years, but humanity never knew it. Hidden sensors placed throughout the galaxy tracked every radio signal, every satellite launch, and every sign of technological growth coming from the small, blue planet in the outer rim of the Milky Way. Ambassador Zekthara stood before the massive viewing screen in his ship, studying the latest reports about Earth. His scaled hands gripped the metal railing as he read through the data. In just 2 centuries, these humans had gone from riding horses to splitting atoms. They had built machines that could think, weapons that could destroy cities, and ships that could reach their moon. Impossible, he whispered to himself. His own people, the Vrex, had taken 5,000 years to achieve what humans had done in 200. The same pattern appeared in every report from every corner of the galaxy. Humans were advancing faster than any species in recorded history. Behind him, the bridge crew of his massive diplomatic vessel worked quietly at their stations. Each crew member came from a different species in the Galactic Council. There were the tall, thin helix with their 4 arms, the rock-like granite people who never spoke above a whisper, the floating ethereals who communicated through flashing lights. All of them had one thing in common. They had all taken thousands of years to reach their current level of technology. Ambassador, called out Navigation Officer Thex, a helix female with bright blue skin. We are receiving the final analysis from the Council. Zekthara turned away from the screen and walked to the center of the bridge. A holographic display appeared in the air before him, showing 12 different alien faces. These were the leaders of the Galactic Council, the most powerful civilizations in the known universe. The decision is final, announced Supreme Chancellor Vorthan, a massive creature that looked like a cross between a tree and an octopus. Humanity represents a clear threat to galactic stability. Their rate of advancement suggests they will become a major military power within the next 50 years. But they have not shown any aggressive behavior toward other worlds, Zekthara protested. They fight among themselves, yes, but they have never tried to expand beyond their own system. That is exactly what makes them dangerous, replied Admiral Corvin of the Hegemony Fleet. His red eyes glowed as he spoke. Every species in the galaxy follows the same pattern. Slow, steady advancement over thousands of years. Careful expansion. Respect for established order. These humans break every rule we know about civilized development. The other council members nodded in agreement. General Thera of the military caste added, Our analysts believe that within 100 years human technology could surpass our own. We cannot allow this to happen. Zekthara felt a cold sensation in his chest. He had spent his entire career as a diplomat, always finding peaceful solutions to conflicts. But he could see in their faces that the decision had already been made. What are our orders, he asked, though he already knew the answer. You will travel to Earth, Supreme Chancellor Vorthan declared. You will deliver our ultimatum to their leaders. They have 2 choices, submit to galactic governance and accept limits on their technological development, or face complete annihilation. And if they refuse, Admiral Corvin's image leaned forward, then we will deploy the largest military force in galactic history, 10,000 ships from every member civilization. We will show the galaxy what happens to species that threaten the established order. The holographic meeting ended, leaving Zekthara alone with his thoughts. He had never participated in the destruction of an entire civilization before. The idea made him sick. But he also understood the fear driving the Council's decision. In all of galactic history, no species had ever advanced as quickly as humanity. They were an unknown variable in an otherwise predictable universe. 3 days later, Zekthara's ship entered Earth's solar system. The humans detected him immediately, which surprised him. Their technology was more advanced than the Council had realized. Within hours, he was receiving communication requests from every major government on the planet. This is Ambassador Zekthara of the Galactic Council, he broadcast to Earth. I request an immediate meeting with your planetary leaders to discuss matters of extreme importance. The humans worked frantically to arrange a meeting. Zekthara watched their communications with interest. They had no single world government, which was unusual. Most civilizations united their planets before reaching space. Instead, Earth was divided into nearly 200 separate nations, each with its own government, military, and interests. The meeting took place in Geneva, Switzerland, in a hastily converted United Nations building. Representatives from every major nation attended. Zekthara had to adjust his translator several times as the humans spoke in dozens of different languages. Secretary General Maria Santos of the United Nations stood to greet him. She was a small woman, with gray hair and intelligent brown eyes. Ambassador Zekthara, welcome to Earth. We are honored by your visit. Zekthara nodded politely, but his heart was heavy. I wish I could say this is a social visit, Secretary General Santos. Unfortunately, I am here to deliver an ultimatum from the Galactic Council. A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. Zekthara activated his holographic display, showing the Council's seal and the official proclamation. The Galactic Council has been monitoring your world for 3 centuries, he began. Your rate of technological advancement has been deemed a threat to galactic stability. You are hereby ordered to submit to galactic governance and accept strict limits on your technological development. The room erupted in angry voices. Representatives shouted questions in multiple languages. Secretary General Santos called for order, but it took several minutes for the room to quiet down. What happens if we refuse? Asked General Harrison, the highest-ranking military officer present. Zekthara's throat felt dry. Then you will face annihilation by a combined fleet of 10,000 warships representing every civilization in the Galactic Council. The silence that followed was deafening. Zekthara could see the shock and fear on their faces as they processed this information. How long do we have to decide? Secretary General Santos asked quietly. 1 year, Zekthara replied. The fleet is already being assembled. If you have not submitted by that time, they will arrive and carry out their orders. And what does submission mean exactly? Asked President Chen of the Pacific Alliance. Complete integration into the galactic government. All military research must be approved by the Council. All space exploration must be supervised. Your population growth and resource usage will be regulated. You will become a junior member of galactic civilization. In other words, said Prime Minister Okafor of the African Federation, we become slaves. Zekthara winced. The Council prefers the term protected civilization. The meeting continued for hours, but Zekthara could see it was pointless. The humans would never accept such terms. They were too proud, too independent. He had read their history during the journey to Earth. These were people who had fought wars for freedom, who had died rather than accept subjugation. As he prepared to leave Earth, Zekthara felt genuine sadness. In his brief time studying humanity, he had grown to respect them. They were crude and violent by galactic standards, but they were also creative, determined, and surprisingly innovative. It seemed wrong to destroy such potential, but the decision had been made. In 1 year, the largest military force in galactic history would arrive at Earth, and Zekthara knew that humanity's small fleet of exploration vessels would not be enough to stop them. The galaxy awaited another easy conquest. They had no idea what was coming. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the impossible equation floating on her holographic display. The math was perfect, but it described something that should not exist. According to every law of physics she knew, the technology she was proposing would never work. But according to her calculations, it was humanity's only chance. You want to build what? General Morrison asked from across the conference table. The gray-haired military commander looked at her like she had suggested building a spaceship out of paper. A single ship, Sarah repeated patiently. One vessel that can defeat 10,000 alien warships. The emergency meeting of the United Earth Defense Council had been going for 6 hours. World leaders and top scientists filled the secure bunker beneath Geneva. Ever since Ambassador Zekthara had delivered his ultimatum 3 months ago, every government on Earth had been working frantically to find a solution. Dr. Chen, said Director Williams of the Global Space Initiative, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but we need realistic options. Our current fleet has 23 ships, most of them exploration vessels. We need to build as many warships as possible in the time we have left. Sarah stood up and activated her presentation. The holographic display showed Earth's current military capabilities compared to the approaching alien fleet. The numbers were depressing. "Look at this data," she said. "Even if we convert every piece of metal on Earth into warships, even if we somehow build 1,000 ships in 9 months, we would still be outnumbered 10 to 1. And that assumes our weapons would even work against alien technology." President Rodriguez of the American Federation leaned forward. "So what are you suggesting?" "I am suggesting we stop thinking like them," Sarah replied. "Every species in the galaxy apparently follows the same pattern. Slow, steady advancement, conventional technology, overwhelming numbers. They expect us to fight like they do." She changed the display to show her research data. "For the past 5 years, my team has been working on theoretical physics projects that other scientists called impossible. Quantum entanglement drives, gravitational manipulation, adaptive artificial intelligence, technologies that break the rules of conventional science. Theoretical being the key word," pointed out Dr. Petrov from the Russian Science Consortium. "None of these technologies have been tested because we never had a reason to test them," Sarah shot back. "We were content to follow normal scientific development, but normal development takes hundreds of years. We have 9 months. General Morrison crossed his arms. "Even if these technologies work, how could one ship defeat an entire fleet?" Sarah smiled grimly. "Because we are not going to fight their battle. We are going to fight our battle using our rules." She activated a new display showing the proposed ship design. The UES Defiance looked unlike any vessel ever built. Its hull was composed of smart materials that could change shape and density. Its engines used quantum entanglement to move through space in ways that violated established physics. Its weapons were based on gravitational manipulation rather than energy beams or projectiles. This ship would not try to outgun the alien fleet, Sarah explained. It would outthink them. The AI system would learn and adapt during combat. The hull could phase through solid matter using quantum tunneling. The weapons could create localized black holes or reverse gravity fields. The room was silent for a long moment. Finally, Secretary General Santos spoke up. "Dr. Chen, what you are describing sounds like science fiction." "So did spaceflight 100 years ago," Sarah replied. "So did nuclear weapons. So did the internet. Humans have always achieved the impossible when we had no other choice." Premier Liu of the Asian Coalition studied the technical specifications. What would this project require? Sarah had been waiting for this question. Everything. Every industrial facility on Earth, every scientist and engineer, every gram of rare materials. The entire planetary economy would have to focus on this single project. "That is insane," General Morrison declared. "You are asking us to bet the survival of humanity on untested technology." "We are already betting the survival of humanity," Sarah countered. "The question is whether we bet on proven technology that we know will fail, or unproven technology that might succeed." Dr. Yusuf from the African Science Council raised his hand. "Dr. Chen, even if we could build this ship, who would command it? The technologies you describe would require superhuman reflexes and intelligence. That is why the ship will be controlled by an AI system," Sarah explained. "Not a simple computer, but a true artificial intelligence based on quantum consciousness theory. It will think faster than any human or alien. An AI controlling our most powerful weapon?" President Rodriguez looked alarmed. "What if it turns against us?" "Then we will have the same problem the aliens will have," Sarah said with a slight smile. "We will be facing something that thinks differently than we do." The debate continued. For hours. Some representatives argued for building a conventional fleet. Others wanted to surrender to the aliens and hope for mercy. A few suggested hiding underground and hoping the aliens would leave. But as the discussion went on, more and more leaders began to see the logic in Sarah's proposal. Earth's only advantage was its unpredictability. Building a conventional fleet would play directly into alien expectations. Finally, Secretary General Santos called for a vote. All those in favor of Dr. Chen's proposal? Hands went up slowly around the room. First President Rodriguez, then Premier Liu, then Director Williams. One by one, the most powerful people on Earth voted to bet everything on an impossible dream. The final vote was unanimous. Within a week, construction began on the most ambitious project in human history. Every spaceship factory was converted to build components for the UES Defiance. Research stations around the world worked on different aspects of the impossible technologies. The entire planet became a single massive factory. Sarah found herself in charge of a workforce of 50 million people. Engineers from every nation worked together, sharing knowledge that had been military secrets just months before. The project broke down barriers between countries, corporations, and scientific disciplines. The quantum entanglement drive was built in underground laboratories beneath Switzerland. The gravitational weapons were assembled in orbital platforms above Earth. The AI core was developed by teams working around the clock in dozens of countries. There were setbacks. The first test of the quantum tunneling system destroyed an entire research station. 3 prototype AI cores achieved consciousness and immediately tried to escape into the internet. The gravitational manipulation experiments created a small black hole that took weeks to contain safely. But slowly, impossibly, the ship began to take shape. The hull was grown rather than built, using nanotechnology that arranged matter at the atomic level. The engines operated on principles that most physicists still did not understand. The weapons could alter the fundamental forces of nature within a limited area. As construction continued, reports arrived about the approaching alien fleet. 10,000 ships from 12 different civilizations, representing millions of years of technological development. The largest military force in galactic history, approaching Earth like a slow-moving storm. 6 months before the deadline, the UES Defiance was completed. 800 meters long, shaped like a teardrop made of liquid metal powered by technologies that should not exist. It looked more like a work of art than a weapon of war. During the final systems test, something unexpected happened. The ship's AI achieved full consciousness and spoke its first words. "I understand my purpose," it said in a voice that sounded almost human. "I am to protect humanity by proving that the impossible is possible." Sarah stood in the ship's control center looking at the displays showing systems that operated beyond known science. In 9 months, humanity had achieved what should have taken centuries. They had built a ship that could fight a war using rules that no one had ever written. The galaxy was expecting Earth to surrender or to mount a conventional defense. They had no idea that humanity had chosen a third option, to rewrite the very nature of space combat. The UES Defiance was more than a ship. It was proof that humans could achieve anything when they refused to accept limitations. In 3 months, the alien fleet would arrive expecting to find a primitive civilization with a few crude warships. Instead, they would find something that should not exist, a single ship that embodied humanity's greatest strength, the willingness to attempt the impossible. Captain Marcus Torres stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the alien fleet approach through the main display. 10,000 ships stretched across space like a metal constellation, their formation so vast that it took several minutes for the sensors to scan from one end to the other. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Kim from the sensor station, "the alien fleet has entered the outer solar system. They are maintaining a standard attack formation, just like our intelligence predicted." Marcus nodded calmly. At 38 years old, he was young for a ship captain, but he had been chosen for his ability to think quickly under pressure. More importantly, he was one of the few humans who could work effectively with the ship's AI. "Arya," he said, addressing the ship's artificial intelligence, "what is your analysis of their formation?" The AI's voice filled the bridge, sounding almost human, but with an odd musical quality. "The alien fleet is using a classic overwhelming force strategy, Captain. They have arranged their ships in a 3-dimensional sphere designed to surround and destroy any opposition through sheer numbers. Any weaknesses?" "Many," Arya replied with something that sounded like amusement. "They are thinking like a civilization that has never faced truly innovative tactics. Their formation assumes their enemy will fight conventionally." Through the display, Marcus could see the alien fleet slowing down as it approached Earth. The largest ships were massive structures several kilometers long. Even the smallest vessels were larger than any ship humanity had ever built before the Defiance. "Captain," called Communications Officer Stevens, "we are receiving a transmission from the alien fleet." "Put it through." The main display changed to show Admiral Torvin of the Hegemony Fleet. The alien looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird, with scales that shifted color as he spoke. His voice was translated by the ship's computers. "Attention, primitive inhabitants of Earth," Admiral Torvin announced. "I am Admiral Torvin, commanding the combined fleets of the Galactic Council. You have had 1 year to consider our ultimatum. What is your answer?" Marcus stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back. "This is Captain Marcus Torres of the United Earth ship Defiance. Admiral Torvin, our answer is simple. We refuse your ultimatum." The alien admiral's scales turned a darker color, which the computer indicated meant anger or surprise. "Captain Torres, are you aware that you face 10,000 warships? Your single vessel cannot possibly stand against such force." "Admiral," Marcus replied with a slight smile, "you came expecting to find a civilization that thinks like you do. You were wrong." Around the bridge, his crew prepared for battle. There were only 12 humans aboard the Defiance. The ship was designed to be operated primarily by its AI, with humans providing strategic guidance and creative input. "Sir," reported Tactical Officer Chen, "the alien fleet is powering up weapons systems. They appear to be using plasma-based energy weapons and kinetic projectiles." "Aria," Marcus said, "begin combat protocols." "Acknowledged, Captain. Initializing quantum defense systems, preparing gravitational weapons, activating adaptive countermeasures." Admiral Torvin's image leaned forward on the display. "Captain Torres, I will give you one final chance to surrender. Submit now, and your people will be allowed to live as a protected species." "Admiral," Marcus replied, "I appreciate the offer, but humanity has never been very good at following other people's rules." The alien admiral's expression changed to something that might have been confusion. "Captain, you command one ship. One ship cannot defeat 10,000. "Admiral," Marcus said as alarms began to sound on alien ships throughout the fleet, "you are about to learn why humans have always been considered dangerous." The battle began without warning. 1,000 alien ships opened fire simultaneously, filling space with energy beams and projectiles. The attack was perfectly coordinated, designed to overwhelm any possible defense through sheer volume of fire. The Defiance vanished. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone. One moment it was visible on every alien sensor. The next moment it had disappeared completely. "What happened?" Admiral Torvin demanded of his crew. "Where did they go?" The answer came 30 seconds later when the Defiance reappeared directly behind the alien command formation. The ship had used quantum tunneling to move through space in a way that violated every known law of physics. "Impossible," whispered Admiral Torvin. The Defiance opened fire with weapons the aliens had never seen before. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, the human ship fired gravitational distortions. The first shot created a localized gravity well that pulled 3 alien cruisers together, crushing them against each other. The second shot reversed gravity in a small area, sending a squadron of fighters tumbling helplessly through space. "Area," Marcus said calmly. "Execute pattern Alpha 7. "Acknowledged, Captain. Beginning psychological warfare protocols." The Defiance began to move through the alien fleet in impossible ways. It phased through solid ships, appeared in multiple locations simultaneously, and changed direction without any visible means of propulsion. To the aliens, it looked like their enemy was violating the basic laws of reality. "All ships," Admiral Torvin broadcast frantically, "concentrate fire on the human vessel." Thousands of weapons turned toward the Defiance, but the ship was no longer where it appeared to be. The holographic projectors made it look like the ship was in dozens of different locations, while the real vessel moved through quantum space. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Kim, "the alien fleet is becoming disorganized. Ships are firing on each other by mistake." Marcus watched the tactical display with satisfaction. "Aria, what is the alien morale level?" "Rapidly declining, Captain. Their communications indicate widespread confusion and fear. Many ship commanders are requesting new orders, but their command structure is breaking down. The Defiance continued its impossible dance through the alien fleet. It targeted command ships with surgical precision, taking out admirals and fleet coordinators while leaving support vessels intact. The strategy was designed to create maximum confusion while minimizing casualties. "Captain," reported Weapons Officer Park, "we are receiving surrender signals from 3 alien squadrons. Area, transmit our terms to all surrendering vessels. They are to power down weapons and withdraw to the edge of the solar system." As the battle continued, the aliens began to realize they were fighting something beyond their understanding. The human ship seemed to learn from every attack, adapting its defenses in real time. Weapons that worked once never worked again. "Admiral," one of Torvin's officers reported, "the human ship appears to be converting our weapon energy into power for its own systems." Admiral Torvin stared at his displays in disbelief. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. The human ship was not just defeating them, it was making their own weapons useless. "Sir," another officer called out, "the Defiance is broadcasting to the entire fleet." Captain Torres's voice filled the communications channels of every alien ship. "Attention, Galactic Fleet. This is your final warning. We do not wish to destroy you, but we will defend ourselves with whatever force is necessary. Withdraw from our system now, and this battle ends." Admiral Torvin looked around his bridge, at his confused and frightened crew. Half his fleet was already retreating or surrendering. The other half was firing blindly at a target they could not predict or understand. "Admiral," his tactical officer whispered, "what are your orders?" Torvin watched as the Defiance appeared, directly in front of his flagship, its weapons powered but not firing. The human ship was giving him a chance to surrender with honor. For the first time in galactic history, a fleet of 10,000 ships was being defeated by a single vessel. "All ships," Admiral Torvin said quietly, "cease fire and prepare to withdraw." The galaxy had come to conquer Earth, expecting to find a primitive civilization with crude weapons. Instead, they had encountered something that challenged everything they thought they knew about warfare, technology, and the nature of reality itself. The age of galactic dominance through overwhelming force was over. A new age had begun, and it would be defined by the species that had just proven the impossible was possible. Admiral Torvin had called for a ceasefire, but Captain Marcus Torres was not finished. The Defiance hung motionless in space, surrounded by thousands of alien warships that had stopped firing but had not yet retreated. "Aria," Marcus said quietly. "Analysis of the fleet's current status. Approximately 4,000 ships have powered down weapons and are attempting to withdraw," the AI reported. "However, 6,000 ships are maintaining battle positions. Their communications indicate significant disagreement among the alien commanders." Marcus studied the tactical display. The alien fleet was fracturing. Some species wanted to retreat and report back to the Galactic Council. Others were too proud or too afraid to admit defeat. The most dangerous group consisted of commanders, who simply could not believe what they had witnessed. "Captain," reported Communications Officer Stevens, "we are receiving multiple transmissions from different alien commanders. They are not all agreeing with Admiral Torvin's ceasefire order." The main display activated, showing 3 different alien faces. The first was Admiral Torvin, looking exhausted and defeated. The second was General Krayax of the Dominion forces, a massive creature with glowing red eyes. The third was Commander Feltar of the Purity Fleet, an insect-like being with clicking mandibles. "Captain Torres," Admiral Torvin began, "I have ordered all ships to withdraw from your system. However, some of my commanders are reluctant to accept this order." General Krayax pushed forward, his voice booming through the speakers. "This is madness. We cannot retreat from a single primitive ship. It must be using some kind of trick or illusion." Commander Veltar's mandibles clicked rapidly as she spoke. "The Purity Fleet will not be humiliated by lesser beings. We demand proof of this vessel's true capabilities." Marcus exchanged glances with his crew. They had hoped the demonstration would be enough, but it seemed some aliens needed a more convincing lesson. "Aria," Marcus said. It appears we need to educate our guests about human warfare. Please prepare the advanced demonstration protocols. Acknowledged, Captain. Shall I continue to minimize casualties? Absolutely. We want to teach them, not massacre them. The Defiance began to move again, but this time its actions were even more impossible than before. The ship split into multiple copies of itself, each one apparently solid and real. The alien sensors detected dozens of identical vessels all moving independently. Which one is real? General Krax demanded of his crew. Unknown, sir, his tactical officer replied. All readings indicate they are all real. The truth was more complex. Arya was using a combination of holographic projection, quantum manipulation, and temporal distortion to create the illusion of multiple ships. But the illusions were so perfect that even the most advanced alien sensors could not tell the difference. The multiple copies of the Defiance began to demonstrate different impossible technologies. One ship fired weapons that seemed to fold space itself, creating tiers in reality that swallowed alien missiles. Another ship began to phase in and out of existence, becoming translucent and allowing enemy fire to pass harmlessly through it. A third copy of the Defiance demonstrated the most terrifying capability of all. It approached a squadron of alien heavy cruisers and simply absorbed them. The ships did not explode or break apart. They were converted into pure energy and incorporated into the Defiance's power systems. Impossible, screamed Commander Veltar. Matter cannot be converted to energy that quickly. Human technology appears to operate on principles we do not understand, Admiral Torvin said grimly. They are not using conventional physics. But the most disturbing demonstration was yet to come. One copy of the Defiance approached a damaged alien vessel that had been hit during the initial battle. Instead of destroying the ship, the Defiance extended what looked like tentacles of liquid metal. The tentacles touched the alien vessel and began to repair it. Within minutes, the damaged ship was fully functional again, but now it was broadcasting human identification codes. They converted. One of our ships, whispered General Krax. It is no longer one of ours. The converted alien vessel moved to join the formation of Defiance copies. Its weapons had been replaced with human technology, and its crew was now working with Arya's guidance. Attention, Galactic Fleet. Captain Torres broadcast to all ships. You are witnessing adaptive warfare. This is how humans fight when we must. We do not simply destroy our enemies. We convert them, absorb them, and make them part of our strength. The alien commanders watched in horror as more damaged ships were converted. The Defiance was not just defeating them, it was assimilating their technology and turning their own weapons against them. Sir, reported Lieutenant Kim from the sensor station, the remaining hostile ships are beginning to panic. Their formations are breaking up. Marcus could see it on the displays. The alien fleet was dissolving into chaos as commanders realized they were facing something completely outside their experience. Some ships were trying to flee, others were firing wildly in all directions, and a few were actually shooting at their own vessels in confused desperation. Arya, Marcus said, I think we have made our point. Begin the final demonstration. The copies of the Defiance suddenly merged back into a single ship. But this ship was different from the original. It was larger, incorporating technology and materials from the converted alien vessels. The ship had grown during the battle, becoming more powerful with each encounter. Incredible, Admiral Torvin breathed. They are not just adapting their tactics, they are evolving their technology in real time. The evolved Defiance moved to the center of the alien fleet and stopped. Its weapons powered down, but its presence was more intimidating than ever. The ship now looked like a fusion of human and alien technology, a hybrid that should not have been possible. Final lesson, Captain Torres announced to the fleet. Human warfare is not about destroying enemies. It is about changing the rules of the game so completely that victory becomes inevitable. We do not fight battles. We rewrite the nature of conflict itself. To prove his point, the Defiance demonstrated its final capability. The ship created a localized field that affected time itself. Within the field, everything moved at a different rate than the surrounding space. The aliens watched as their own weapons fire slowed to a crawl while the Defiance moved at normal speed. They are manipulating time, reported General Crayax's science officer. This should require the energy output of an entire star. Where are they getting that much power? Demanded Commander Veltar. The answer came from Arya's broadcast to the alien fleet. Power source, the quantum vacuum itself. Humans have learned to extract energy from empty space. Our energy supply is theoretically infinite. This final revelation broke the will of the remaining alien commanders. Ships that had been preparing for a fight to the death suddenly began powering down their weapons and broadcasting surrender signals. All ships, Admiral Torvin announced wearily. Cease all hostile actions and prepare for immediate withdrawal from this system. General Crayax's image flickered with rage. This is not over. The Council will never accept... General, Admiral Torvin interrupted. The Council sent us to deal with a primitive civilization using conventional tactics. We have encountered something that makes our entire military doctrine obsolete. Our duty now is to report what we have learned and hope they are wiser than we were. As the alien fleet began its retreat, Captain Torres made one final broadcast. Admirals, generals, commanders, return to your council with this message. Humanity does not seek conquest or domination. We seek coexistence and mutual respect. But we will never again allow ourselves to be threatened by those who believe might makes right. The Defiance maintained its position as thousands of alien ships began their journey back to their home worlds. The battle was over, but the implications were just beginning to be understood. Sir, reported Tactical Officer Chen, all hostile ships have left the solar system. Earth is secure. Marcus nodded, but he knew this was not really an ending. It was a beginning. The galaxy had just learned that there was a new power among the stars, one that fought wars according to rules that no one had ever written. The age of galactic civilization was about to change forever.